Beyond. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Please stop it. Please stop it. Stop.
Beyond.
Brian, shut up.
Beyond.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Podcast Beyond, episode 409. I'm Max Scoville, who makes ham-fisted attempts at sort of hosting this show. With me is Marty Sleva, who writes down the swear words.
Yeah, all the cussies.
That come out of the mouth of Brian Altano.
Hi.
And the voice of reason, the voice of soft reassurance is Jared Petty.
I'm Placid.
Whoop, Flaccid?
I thought you said
Placid.
Lake Flaccid?
I thought you said pleasant, but mispronounced it as softly as possible. Like you didn't have any hard consonants in the word. Like, oh, placid.
Well, that would be a flaccid Placid.
Yeah.
I mean,
so a nice, flaccid, pleasant man,
as soft
Jared
as
Petty.
possible.
Yeah. So thank
World's
you.
number one
Good
PlayStation.
start.
World's number one PlayStation podcast.
That's right.
Beyond.
Yeah. So I want to take a minute to just apologize. We took a week off last week. This
Unacceptable.
I mean, like, you know, we do this every week, and last week was just kind of a big mess for everybody involved.
Yeah. We all went to PAX.
Yeah, we're coming back from PAX. I got really sick. What was it? Goldfarb had to go to New York or L.A. or something.
You had to go to L.A. I stayed in Seattle an extra couple days because I had been working for like 10 days straight.
And I was in a race car.
Yeah, Brian had to go in a race car for.
It really was.
To make this sound completely like an excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was driving around a race car with Harley from Epic Mealtime. That's not a lie. That's a real thing we did at work.
And Jared stole an entire middle school class's backpacks full of homework and was feeding it to dogs at the animal shelter.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Because dogs love to eat homework.
He was playing the role of Chris Farley, the bus driver from Billy Madison. He ate everyone's sandwich.
It was that damn Sasquatch.
I was playing the role of play Metal Gear for 100 hours that week.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing.
we're back.
It was a pretty good week to take off because Metal Gear Solid 5 came out, The Phantom Pain, and my God, I love that game so much.
Yeah.
We've kind of hyped it up a little bit, and I was excited for it, and I don't think I was prepared for how much I love it. Is it too soon to say this is one of my favorite games ever? Like, I'm 33 hours into it. Yeah, but I mean, like, just in terms
what if
of
it gets
just
like really racist at the end?
I mean, I feel like it's already a little bit racist. I don't know. Just
There's at least one mission that's definitely a little bit racist. Yeah.
okay. Well, that's good to know. I made a horse poop on a guy's face while he was asleep, and then I stole him with a balloon. So, I mean, you know, I'm okay with recognizing that things can be problematic, but also awesome.
No, I don't think it's unfair to say you enjoy something very much, so much that you think, hey, this might be one of my favorite video games ever. Say it, and then like if you discover 6 weeks later you're wrong, then be like, I'm wrong. Like a lot of people did when they went to see Phantom Menace. You know, like, oh man, it's so great.
Sure.
This is one of my favorite films ever.
I mean,
Yeah,
I will say that I was really, really looking forward to the Phantom Pain, and I'm really still enjoying it, and it's kind of rare for me to be 33 hours deep, like marathoning something and not feel like even slightly burnt out on it.
Yeah. And this is it's for me the first game since probably Bloodborne that has inspired such awesome stories in the office of just people coming in and being like, oh man, this happened, and then you're like, I didn't even know you could do that in the game.
I was gonna say I didn't know that something could sort of hover up towards or possibly at times top Bloodborne for me this year. And I found myself really, really loving both of them, which is odd because I'm not a very, like, when it comes to video games, like, I love like goofy open world stuff. I love like, you know, stupid platforming games. Like, the other game I'm playing like crazy right now is Mario Maker, which is totally different than anything else out there. But Bloodborne and Metal Gear Solid 5 are both really obtuse in a lot of ways. Like, they kind of actively push people away in a lot of sections. Like, they don't do the greatest job of explaining their sub-menus or how to level up your weapons. Like, a lot of stuff in Bloodborne was just sort of like, oh, you die 100 times until you figure out that you don't have to do that same way anymore.
Yeah.
Figuring out your weapon loadouts and stuff like that in Bloodborne, very similar to Metal Gear in that, like, no one ever goes, this is the best way to do this. You know, one mission along, they're just, like, in Metal Gear, they were just like, hey, do you have a rocket launcher? Because you should probably get one by now. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. That's the thing I should do.
Yeah, totally. When I was playing, I was like, I think for the first 7 or 8 missions, I didn't realize that my armor was underneath my character appearance menu. Yeah. That made no sense to me. Why did my appearance affect my... So I'm like, why can't I put my armor on? Yeah. And I just finally go, it's like, oh, it's what I look like? Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that kind of obdurate design there, but I like that in a way because I'm always discovering things.
So I remember just... I want to blame Japan for this. Not blame Japan, but just really accredit them for this because, like, Japanese is a language that in writing reads in the opposite direction, and sometimes reads, up to down. Like it is fundamentally just structurally different in terms of syntax and how everything is arranged. And if you're making a menu, which is taking text and using it as a means of, navigating, I feel like Japanese games are going to inherently have just bulkier menus. Just by the nature of having.
If you trace the lineage from a lot of Japanese games, it's a lot of RPGs, sort of inspired as the sort of the skill tree that inspired every other video game creator to go on to make their own games. And you look at the Souls series, and you look at Metal Gear and stuff like that, and especially 5. It's just so sort of obtuse, and it takes some time to get in there and figure it out. And luckily, there's quick ways around it. Like spoilers, but you get a big base in Metal Gear, and you get all these guys, and you start sending them there, and you start assigning them to things, and it's really easy to get lost in all that stuff like that. There's all this sort of like tiny little micromanaging of stats that you wouldn't really think are in a game where a horse can poop on a sleeping guy and you can send him away in a balloon, but it's all there, and it's really weird. I find myself so Bloodborne is the first Souls game I ever played.
Yeah.
I played a little bit here and there in preview events. And Metal Gear, I played about half of 2. I played most of Twin Snakes. I played the first one, obviously. I played about the first 2 hours of 3 and the first hour of 4. Yeah. And none of it ever truly clicked with me. But this game, hot damn, it is just grabbing me. And it's, every now and then, we talked a little bit at the first hour of the game, it just goes, oh, well, there is a really weird story, and I don't understand anything that's going on. And then it sort of moves out of the way for you to just really enjoy the world that it's in. And I've gotten a lot. I was tweeting about how much I love the game, and a bunch of people asked me, like, if I never liked Metal Gear and I don't like stealth, should I play this? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so it does something that I've been really hoping. Well, I've been hoping Assassin's Creed would gut itself for quite a few games now. I feel like there are things that are just fundamentally just don't work. Like use the same button for everything, or just the way the kind of just some of the missions are just poorly assembled. The approach to an open world are just kind of weird. And I think that the Phantom Pain is the first Metal Gear game that has basically had the kind of humility to just be like, we need to scrap a lot of stuff and rebuild it from the ground up. Metal Gear Solid 4. I played it. I thought it was technically really, really impressive, but it also felt like this weird kind of like they shaved pieces off of the traditional kind of Metal Gear formula to make it feel more modern, and it's more accessible because of that. It's like a twin stick shooter. You can go into first person. The aiming is a lot more like you don't have to stop to aim. But it still just didn't feel like it was quite there.
And it also didn't feel like a singular vision. It almost felt like 5 different games. Like if you would have told me that each chapter of 4 was directed by someone else, I would have totally believed you. Going into Eastern Europe and having like the sneaky spy stuff.
And like Metal Gear it's kind of like you look at Metal Gear Solid, the first one, and that is using like 3D and polygons to reinterpret what was on the MSX2 with Metal Gear 2, which was kind of an isometric top-down, not isometric, but like top-down kind of view, which works for stealth games. And then 2 rolls around, and they're like, let's add some first-person stuff, but it still feels very clunky by today's standards. 3, they had to wait until Subsistence to add controlling your own camera, which is like going back to that and playing it without a free camera is just, it feels like having one of your hands tied behind your back. It's just kind of odd. And then I feel like 4 was kind of just still trying to keep pieces of that original formula in there. Phantom Pain just feels like a brand new game from the ground up. Like,
it's a very effective evolution of Peace Walker. That's the other bit. We've got these 4 numbered ones in the series, but you do see a lot of the ideas that were kind of roughed out in Peace Walker, smoothed off and turned into something logical. And you combine that with what you mentioned, going all the way back to the MSX2. So this is a big open world game, but something it does that very few open world games does is yes, you've got all the space, but really it's a series of nodes. A series of lures to draw you in. Areas where things are happening, broken up by wide open space that's mostly used for observation and planning. But everything's happening around the nodes.
I love so much.
So it's still pulling you into artfully, thoughtfully designed areas where you're doing largely unscripted interactions. And that is a really great fusion of Peace Walker and then the earlier Metal Gear themes that you were talking about there, coming together in an absolutely unique way, and it just works so well. I can't think... this game reminds me almost more of Crackdown than anything else, not because it's arcadey and jumpy, but because it's like, here's a point, here's everything around the point, go do something about that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why you mentioned Assassin's Creed, and I actually, if you had asked me a few years ago, like, do you like stealth games, I would have said no. And then I sort of realized that I play a lot of them. And then I go, yeah, well, maybe I do, because I like the ones that are... stealth games always meant sort of like, to me, the early Splinter Cell games, which were your gun was basically just like the tranquilizer gun.
It was a pea shooter.
It was nothing. And if you alerted anybody, you had to restart the entire thing. Stealth games since then have become so much more forgiving, and in that, like, you can get 90% into a mission in Metal Gear Solid 5 and get spotted, and then all of a sudden it's a Call of Duty level. The first hour of it are different. But I think the reason that Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs and a bunch of the open world attempted stealth games don't work the way this one does is because you are a citizen in those games in a bustling world full of people who are totally okay with you walking by them. Whereas Metal Gear there are two main characters in that, or two outside of yourself. There is the constant threat of the enemy, which is pretty much 95% of the population of the world. And then there is the environment, which is a real pain in the ass sometimes. And sometimes it's a pain in the ass to traverse. Sometimes in the most serendipitous moments, it just works in your favor, where you are, I'm sure you guys have all experienced this, but you're invading this base camp and there's 15 guys and you're like, there's no way I'm pinned in this corner. There's nothing I can do. And all of a sudden you get this thing over your comm that's like, sandstorm approaching. And a sandstorm comes in, and all of a sudden the entire world is blind to you.
Yep.
And you can get in there and do as much as you need to do, but it stops you from sending people out on balloons because they won't fly away. So it makes you rethink everything. So you can go in, knock down all of your targets, hide a bunch of bodies. The sandstorm clears, and everybody's like, what the hell was that?
Exactly. Although that can also come back to bite you. I had one of those wonderful moments. I'm like, yeah, sandstorm. And I lay down flat after I've done all my cool stuff, and the storm clears. And I look next to my head, and there's a pair of walker feet. Just next to my head. And just kind of look up, and there's the exclamation point, and the Gatlings go off in missions. And so it can work so many. I love that there's no script for this. That these moments just happen and happen and happen again. It's one of the best storytelling games I think I've ever played.
That's the funny thing is, like, I think a lot of people who were expecting the sort of pomp and just long-winded story nature of the Metal Gear games might be disappointed, because that's not what the main story is here. The main story is the things we create with the tools that are in the world, and like our stories are the main stories of the game. Like, it does like further it bridges the gap between Big Boss's story and Snake's.
As you get into the post game, there's more of that. If you're frustrated by that, finish the game, get to the post game. There's plenty of story.
But it's cool. I feel weird coming into this franchise where I'm at right now, because it's sort of like going to a place that they've been, you go to like a restaurant that they've been working on for 25 years, and the menu's fantastic now. But they're like, the first few years we were open, none of the burners worked, and the door was always creaky, and all the tables had sticky on them, and you're just like, well, everything's awesome now. Like, sorry you guys went through all those troubles back then, but
I really love how it feels like it might as well be the first Metal Gear game remake. It's so close to it. Like, the first Metal Gear starts up, and you're like, Snake, go in here. You've got to get the boss or something. And they're like, I feel asleep. Oh no, dogs, and it's just like, what is this game? Like, and it was all that back then was like, hey, what if you took 80s Reagan era American action movies and infused them with anime influences? And it's taking that, but it's doing them, and it looks like one of those movies. I was sneaking into some base, and I was just like, I've always loved the aesthetic of the old Metal Gear games, almost more than the modern ones, just because it's got that kind of like that genuine, like, you can imagine that Snake is Michael Biehn or Tom Berenger or something.
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell, obviously, though he is totally like Tom Berenger in the box art.
What is
he just has Snake Plissken's gun.
Right, he just has Snake's gun there otherwise. And Sean Connery's Big Boss.
He's John Connor or whatever. But he's just like, he's that kind of, he is that 80s action hero. And this is the first game where I really I feel like that, like, you think like the beginning of like True Lies or something, where he's like sneaking into this base and he's like, knocking guys' heads together and like just, unzipping the sneaking suit, and it's a tuxedo underneath. And it's just like, this game just nails that feeling of just like the searchlight coming over and you're like just face down in the mud, just so like a tense. Badass. I mean, it's the beginning of The Rock, which is like what the beginning of Metal Gear is, and it just I love it. Like, it's the combination of everything that made me just so happy when I was 10 years old, which was like playing Manhunt in my friend's backyard and like avoiding his motion sensor porch light.
Yeah, you were
when
saying
I was sneaking around.
You were saying that it feels like it's like hide and seek for adults.
It's
because
exactly.
we can't play that as adults
exactly.
because you get arrested.
Yeah.
That's what I love about video games is that they allow you to do things that you did when you were a kid, but that you could also only get away with when you're a kid.
Yeah.
I could also go run around in my backyard with a stick and pretend I was fighting skeletons and dragons, and now I can't really get away with that without looking like I'm on PCP.
Yep.
So that's why I love Skyrim.
Yeah.
And I also used to play hide and seek tag, and now I've got Metal Gear, and it's scratching that itch, and it makes me so happy. And at the same time, it also feels like I'm in The Rock or Terminator or Escape from New York or whatever, any one of these awesome old movies I grew up with, and it's also got robots, which is great.
Yep.
Rankly sentimental. That's really kind of beautiful. And
Yeah.
I love that thought. I'm really glad you said that.
Anyway, I really want everyone to play this game, and amazingly enough, we actually we've been given a code for.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
Our buddy Yuichi
Yes,
from
yeah.
Konami has grabbed us a code.
Yeah.
And,
Thanks, man.
Yeah, Yuichi's a nice dude.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
He also made the really cool IGN logo on his mother base.
Oh,
with
that's
the,
right. Yeah.
With the emblem.
Yeah,
nice.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen. That's like a part of the game I haven't even gotten into.
Yeah. Oh, there's so much of that. There's so many
know.
crazy things you keep finding. Just like what?
Mine just says Octopus Bear, but it's in like Miami Vice colors.
Yeah.
So what's the
That's
plan
awesome.
for giving that away? What do we?
That's a good question. How do you like? Should we do like write us an email and tell us why you think why you deserve Metal Gear, or should we do like a question or like a something?
Yeah, it's hard because we can't be like, tell us your favorite Metal Gear 5 story, because it's like, well, you already.
Yeah.
How about this? If you were going to name D-Dog anything but D-Dog, what would you name him? What's best puppy?
That's a good.
That's a solid question.
Yeah.
Solid question. Best puppy
I like
name.
it.
Email us at beyond@ign.com.
Yep.
Subject line
D-Dog.
D-Dog.
Yep.
Just give us the best puppy name.
Cool.
The one that we use
I
as most.
kind of hate you guys
What's that?
because we were gonna get thousands of emails.
Yeah, but they're just
with
dog names.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and here's the other thing: is you can't write anything else. There's got to be a dog name in there because we got to go through all these. Don't be like, if I had the dog and I was gonna train him to do the thing, let me explain my. Just write the name of the dog, and the joke should tell itself. So
Did I tell you guys? Ever tell you guys the Halo haiku story?
No, but I can't.
still
wait.
get-
you still get emails?
So Will Tuttle, who's my old boss at GameSpy, and he did this thing once where he was just like, "Hey, we got this beta code for Halo, whatever the hell Halo it was that 7 years ago," and he goes, "Yeah, send us a haiku to podcast@gamespy.com," which was also the email alias we used for the GameSpy briefings, which was the podcast we were on at the time, and we got hundreds. Like people, I didn't even know people did this, or knew or listened to it. So they wrote in, but then they also wrote in for years to come with just things that weren't even haikus at all. Think about the kind of guy that reads through a
roses
contest.
are red, violets are
Yeah.
blue.
The
I
kind
like
of person
Master
that
Chief.
responds to a contest 3 years too
Okay,
late.
so
Yeah,
if you
a
are
lot of
hearing
dogs.
this contest announcement and it is past Sunday, September 13th, 2015, whatever time zone, any time zone, that's the deadline. So just if you've heard it and it's after that time, then don't email us a dog name.
Dog name.
Don't
Stop it.
just
send
bad
haiku-
dog,
just
bad
send
dog, no
haikus to
biscuit.
Brian. That's
Who's
all.
a bad dog? You're a
Write the
bad
dog name on your forehead and look in the mirror.
Yeah. So on the note of Phantom Pain, just a PSA from Konami: don't use quiet on missions 29 or 42 because it could corrupt your save file. I'm 33 hours in. I'm on mission 15.
What's your percentage?
18%?
Yeah.
18, 19%?
I'm 20 something hours in and I'm 10% done.
Yeah, how much have you put in, Jared?
I have easily played this game over 100 hours at this point. And there's a lot there still. Those 42 missions are main story missions. There's also, I think, 150 side ops, something like that.
Yeah, 152, I think.
You could get a knife that you could put on your dog.
I already have that. It's awesome.
But understand, you don't actually have to play all of those story missions to get all the story. Some of them are challenge missions that you're going to unlock. Like you'll have earlier versions of missions, but you have to do them assistant style, where you're dropped in naked and have to scrounge all your gear, or you have to do perfect stealth version. Not all of those have to be complete. We've got a thing on the guide right now about, hey, here are the missions you absolutely have to play to unlock all the story.
On IGN's guide, right?
Yeah, that IGN guide.
That you specifically busted your ass on. I was using that a little over the weekend, just looking at the.
A lot like the mother-based stuff is super helpful. The mother-based
stuff is great. I think because, like I said, the game doesn't really do a great job of explaining stuff to you, so it's good to have you guys around.
We're trying to add more. There's a lot. It's been John and I and Brendan have pretty much all been on it for a while now. So I know there's still some holes.
Have you guys done like a starter guide?
Yeah, a couple of them.
I am desperately resisting the urge to check any of that, but it's really reassuring to know it's all there.
Yeah, so cool. And Beyond Guy says, if you got any questions about the game, send them in. Let us know. That'll help us fill in the wiki, please. It's good to know where the pain points are.
Also, I think this corrupted save file thing is going to be fixed at some point.
Oh,
soon.
yeah, totally. They're not going to just leave it.
Episode. Yeah, 'cause that is terrifying. The idea of putting in that many hours and then 50 hours in, it corrupts the file. Like,
they're just Konami's just like, yeah, no, it's cool. We've got all our employees at Kojima Productions hard at work on. Hello? Hello? Anyone?
This is really frightening me because for the guide, I was using Quiet Mission 29. I just lucked out. So, yay. Ooh,
Look at you,
that would have been really, really bad.
Yeah.
Living on the edge.
Yeah.
Okay, so in other really weird news, Kingdom Hearts 2.9 showed up on some guy's LinkedIn as a thing he worked on for, I believe, PS3 and PS4.
PS3 and PS4. It also says that man worked on multiplayer for Kingdom Hearts 3, which that's never been a thing.
Huh.
So, I was talking to Goldfarb right before this, and my immediate thought is that 2.9 is going to be the equivalent of Final Fantasy episode Dusky. I think Kingdom Hearts 3 is a very long time away, and I think they're going to release a playable thing. Maybe it's going to be a thing on Final Fantasy 15 when that comes out.
That's a neat idea.
Although that's not a game that is going to need anyone. Like
a Ground Zeroes?
Yeah. So I think it'll be like a thing that's like, hey, the game is still taking a long time, but here is a playable thing to sort of satiate
If it's like Dusky, will it be like a bunch of Disney characters hanging out with Coleman tents and eating stew and fighting behemoths? Because that sounds great. What about this multiplayer thing? Like, is that going to be like, can I hope that it's kart racing?
Yeah, you can hope it's kart racing. I mean, the idea, like, I doubt it's going to be like, hey, 3 people are dropped in the world, and you're Sora, and someone's Donald, and someone's a Goofy. Like, I don't think that's how it's going to work. Yeah, I don't know. I would imagine it might be something more passive, or maybe being able to like share stuff with friends or leaderboard stuff, or.
I don't want to hit the giant like trophy thing, but is there any possibility of like a Monster Hunter type interactive thing?
I mean, that would be cool. Yeah. I don't know, because the series hasn't really done that, and from what we've seen of Kingdom Hearts 3 at E3, it is a much larger game in terms of scope.
Did we know that Kingdom Hearts was going to be, or is Kingdom Hearts 3 just PS4, or is that going to be
It's PS4 and Xbox One. It's definitely not PS3.
Okay.
So I have no idea why
That's
would
why that
possibly
makes it
come out for PS3.
kind of odd. Well, it could also be like, here's the final version of, here's an HD remaster
of 1 and 2 and all those other games, which those are only available on PS3.
Right.
And it's sort of weird that those haven't popped up on Xbox, just because Kingdom Hearts 3 is coming out for Xbox One.
Right.
You would think that if you've only owned Xbox consoles, you'd want to get caught up.
You know, we gripe about remastered versions and HD whatevers, but this is, as they say, every console is someone's first console.
Yeah.
And it makes a ton of sense to be like, hey, here's this new thing that's coming out to, like, can you play Metal Gear Solid 1 on PS4?
Can you download the PS1 Classic
On PS4? I haven't tried.
Possibly.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't even play you can't play the remastered ones, can you?
No.
Like,
I mean, I still have a launch PS3 at home that I sort of use for my PS1 and PS2 games.
No, I love. I know people gripe about compilations and remasters. I love getting them.
It's handy.
Yeah, send them over here. Give me Rare Replay. Give me Mega Man. Send them on over.
Yeah,
I buy movies on Blu-ray. I already have on DVD. It's just kind of, you want to have one machine in your house, whatever.
I mean, I wouldn't expect real Kingdom Hearts stuff for quite a while. I mean, we know that Big Hero 6 is going to be in the game, which we saw at D23, but
which is an evil Big Hero 6.
A real mean Baymax.
Yep.
Oh no, mean Baymax.
Yeah, he's the one that you left behind in the little hole.
Oh, I don't like
which
that.
Which is really dark.
Yeah.
Pear says I walk like Baymax.
Wow, that's totally it.
I can see that.
You're like if Baymax and Robotnik had a baby.
I'm thinking about being Baymax for Halloween this year.
That'd be really lovely. You're very caring.
I'm your personal healthcare assistant.
Yeah.
Except unlike real healthcare assistants,
you're like a personal mental health care assistant. Like you come over, you're like, "Are you having an okay day, friend Max?"
That must get so irritating. I'm sorry.
It's wonderful. You're a positive influence in the office.
Horrible.
Witcher 3 is getting an expansion because everyone totally finished that 200+ hour game.
Yeah, totally.
I will be going back to that game for the rest of my life, I feel like.
Can we talk about the expansions called Hearts of Stone? Isn't Hearthstone like you gotta just call it something else? Don't do that.
Hearts of Stone. I feel like that's such a nice little just sort of shots fired at Hearthstone.
Yeah.
Because it's also, if you buy the physical, there's like a limited edition like physical version of this that comes with 2 actual Gwent decks, so you can totally play this like
Actual fake card game.
this,
Beautiful.
yeah, which is a fun. It's a fun game. I still want them to put that on a mobile. If they put out Gwent on mobile, I'd probably play it, and then I'd be like, well, I'm playing a trading card game on my phone. I'm not Max Scoville anymore. I don't know who I am.
Are there any real plans to like publish a box version? I would buy like a tavern box of that to play with friends.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That would be. I mean, you would
if they
imagine
want, if they want money.
Yeah, and I mean, Witcher 3 sold an insane amount. Like,
Yeah.
you would think like the you know.
I hope it comes with
Obviously,
a CD that's just got like a 90-minute loop of just that Gwent music.
No, I mean I think like a a low key party with friends, just drinks and playing like tavern games like that. Be a lot of fun.
It's
I'm
terrifying
boring.
that
So you can entertain some company.
I do want to go entertain some company. Absolutely, you're bewitching, Max. Nah.
That went down the
Sorry. All right.
yeah, it's funny that the games that are on everyone's mind for Game of the Year so far are all 12,000 hours long. Between Metal Gear and Witcher and Bloodborne.
I mean, we've been
That
waiting.
kind of sucks, right?
Yeah.
We've had sort of some sparse game releases the last couple years. So there's been obviously some big stuff in there, but with the launch of new consoles, it's kind of like people have been working on finishing these games, and it's like if you're going to put out like a big huge game for a brand new system, you kind of want to be big. Also, we've got Fallout still.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Like I can't even remember what's like Metal Gear is got its claws in me pretty deep, and I don't know. I guess fangs because of snakes and all that, but and there's still Witcher, and then of course like Fallout happens after that, and I can't even see past that. There's an Assassin's Creed. There's
Rise of the Tomb Raider.
That's right.
Which, like, Rise of the Tomb Raider, it's not coming to PS4 for a while, but I'm really excited for that game because I can finish that game probably in a weekend.
Yeah, totally.
And I don't know if I'll ever finish Metal Gear.
Yeah.
I will try to. I'll see the ending.
Get to the ending at least.
No,
yeah.
I will do everything I can to, but like I'll never see the ending of The Witcher. Just won't happen. Just not in my vernacular.
So I imagine. Do you have to finish The Witcher to get the expansion? I don't know if it says that, but I feel like that'd be kind of weird if they forced that. Like the Fallout 3 DLC, you could pretty much
Play whatever.
That's a John Ryan question. He's on that. I'm not sure.
Worth looking into. We should know that, but I do like it because all the stuff they're showing off for this looks very like kind of cheerful fantasy. Like the Wild Hunt was cool, but like all the stuff I loved in The Witcher 3 was the kind of more lighthearted, more just kind of like fairy tale adventure stuff versus like these apocalyptic Sauron looking guys coming through on horses made of fire and
Now, how long does that game take to finish?
Witcher?
Yeah,
A long time.
Like 200 hours
to like get to the ending credits.
I mean, I'm sure you can cut corners, but
what did they say? I think they said that their speedrun guys, like their QA testers, were they gave a number for that, and they were like it takes them 60.
they call it Polish
something.
Weekend.
It's not.
That's brutal. Yeah.
I don't know. I really want more games that are like Uncharted length, that are sort of like 10, 15 hours.
That's why I loved Until Dawn so much.
Yeah.
So I was like, it was in my life and then out of my life.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is great.
Yep.
That's why I like episodic games.
Well,
I think we get a lot of games that are like 2 hours long that you're like, well, that's a little short.
Yeah.
And then you see stuff that's 200 hours, and I'm like, sorry.
I'd like to keep getting the variety we're getting right now.
Sure.
I love short games, medium games, long games. As long as the game should be the length of what it takes to accomplish what it's trying to do in the right way. And so I'm grateful that we're finally, because there have been some big, not so good games. Now we're getting like, 2, 3 really good, big exploratory games all the same year. But I hope, I know it's almost too much, but I'm grateful because
it's also,
I wonder if Assassin's Creed's going to take a hit this year because of all that. I mean, I feel like it's usually the kind of like the leading star for open world games in the fall, and it's got a lot to go up against. If people are still playing Witcher and you're still playing Metal Gear, which most will, and I'm guessing the release of Metal Gear means that a lot of people skipped it and they're waiting to get it as a Christmas gift, which they will in November. And then Fallout, I think like that open world itch is being scratched everywhere. And I don't really know if Assassin's Creed is going to specifically do anything that's
I mean, I think
going to pull you away from those
it's
games.
coming out at a smart time.
Yeah.
It's going to be about a month and a half after Metal Gear, and then it's going to be about 2 or 3 weeks before Fallout. And I mean, so by now we know Assassin's Creed Syndicate is our IGN first for the month. That's where I was before PAX. Went to Quebec, and that trip sold me on the game.
You're really digging it, right?
Yeah, that trip sold me on the game. Like the word the team kept using was fun, and they kept talking about how they're looking at the Ezio games and they're looking at Black Flag in terms of what they want to do. That's like multiplayer has been scrapped. They want a more lighthearted, like they were pointing out references. They're like Gangs of New York is a reference.
Yeah, so
awesome.
Guy Ritchie movies.
You
like,
get it very much got that kind of Guy Ritchie, Sherlock Holmes, and also that again Gangs of New York. And the thing that those both have in common is that they are anachronistic as all hell.
Yep.
And that's good because I felt so much that Assassin's Creed is always like. It's sort of like a when you go on a field trip to some interesting sort of like theme park, they're like, well, welcome to Plymouth Rock, and this is where the Pilgrims came in their old boat. Oh no, don't go over there. We're gonna go over there later. But please stay with the rest of the tour. And you're like, I want to jump on stuff. I want to run around. And they're like, no, you're supposed to follow this one horse. Don't be seen though. Don't attract a crowd. It's just like that's not fun.
I think they're going for more of the. Sort of like Metal Gear, where you're given, like we were talking about, where you're given a situation. You gotta. Your ultimate thing is to kill that dude.
Yeah.
We don't care how you do it.
That's great.
There's like 10 different ways to do it.
You've got a grappling hook.
You got a grappling hook. You got like carriages that actually control well, and that you can like fight on top of a carriage.
See, that sounds like fun.
I bet those horses don't defecate though.
It's good to hear you say that you talk to them and they're specifically referencing what they did like in the past games. Because I guess you're always under the idea that these Assassin's Creed games are kind of built in a bubble because they're made by almost a different team every single year. And it's hard to get those things coordinated. Like each one's like 2 or 3 years in development. So by the time a gameplay mechanism is so far along, like somebody else is already working on a new thing for the next one.
Well, money talks, and they got punched in the gut. That's some of it. I mean, the last time,
year?
and they were forced to stop and breathe, and I think that's good.
Yeah.
I don't wish any bad will to anybody involved in these projects, but it's occasionally good to get that reality check that forces you to refocus on what you do best.
I don't know if they stop to breathe. I mean, it's still annualized. It's like Far Cry is stopping to breathe.
Yeah, I mean that's what like Max, when you mentioned how you would love to see just a like reworking from the ground up, which is tough on annualization. Like Metal Gear's able to do it because it's been a generation since 4. Which in annualized games, that's like Call of Duty can't. It can slowly change things, but nothing can reinvent the wheel because every November there has to be one.
I actually think that Call of Duty could benefit from what's happening with Assassin's Creed, where they were for a while being developed in isolation, because Call of Duty had like veered down that Titanfall road, and I don't think it'll ever go back. Like, it's so much about super sci-fi, futuristic triple jumping mech suits now.
It can never go back to school teachers who got drafted for war.
It'll never go back to like the old windy pop guns and like you actually have a wooden musket looking thing.
As much as I would love that, because I want to see like a gorgeous game like that.
Totally, it'll be a completely new like title if they do. In the same way that Black Ops kind of is. That was, I feel like, more story heavy. And then like, I don't know if we're ever going to see a Ghost 2. I feel like people are just kind of whatever about that. But Advanced Warfare 2 probably, like, there's kind of an explanation in the what comes after the colon there. I feel like it wouldn't be unheard of to see at some point in the somewhat near future to see like a Call of Duty Valor or something, and it's like World War II again.
I just love that you think of an M1 Garand as a musket. That's adorable.
I don't know anything about the past.
Or guns. Or things.
So we're talking about Ubisoft for a minute there. They're opening a theme park?
Yep.
Set to open in 2020 in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Ubisoft announced that they are developing a 10,000 square meter next generation indoor theme park featuring rides, shows, and more, all built around Ubisoft's games and characters.
Yeah, they mentioned specifically Assassin's Creed, Just Dance, and Rabbids. You know those little rabbits? I don't like those. Those are like minions.
So rabbits, they definitely have that minions vibe to them.
They're all over. When I was in France, that's like Mickey Mouse over there.
Yeah.
Aside from regular Mickey Mouse, the rabbit stuff is everywhere.
People actually like it there.
That really stuck there. It's so strange to see. Like you walk by capsule toy machines and toy stores, and like you'll walk past like stores that have T-shirts. There's kids everywhere with like rabbits merchandise.
You can go on YouTube and watch these little French shorts that they're still they're
weird.
Still
basically, like they predate Minions basically.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like this sort of like overwhelming, massive, horrible monster creatures that run around making squeaky French noises.
My wife's really into them.
Yeah,
she thinks they're hilarious.
Yeah, I mean they're. I totally see why kids love them.
I kind of just am inherently a little more fond of European cartoons, just because they're just a little bit lewd. Like they're always like they're not afraid to show a cat smoking a cigar.
Yeah.
Whereas here we're like, but what if a child actually did that? It's like the cat's trying to eat a bird too. He has an anvil fall on him. Like,
The Rabbids thing is weird with me because I'm a huge fan of Rayman. And the Rabbids are just a part of that universe that became bigger than we'll get Rabbids games for the rest of our lives. We might never get another side-scrolling 2D hand-painted Rayman game again, which kind of bums me out. It's sort of like when people latch on to the worst part of something and make it the biggest part of something. Not saying they're bad, but I'd rather play another Rayman game than another party game collection with the Rabbids.
Yeah. I also keep thinking you're saying Rain Man.
Rain Man?
And I want to see if
everybody loves Rain Man.
No, along that line, the fact this park is in Kuala Lumpur, when I was a kid, I used to think that's where koalas were from. And
I always thought that was one of the coolest country names.
Yeah. So
besides Lake Titicaca.
It's also a really... I'm not...
Neither of those are countries.
When I was in...
Again, I don't know anything about geography.
One is a city and one is literally a lake.
When I was in elementary school, they made us sing this song in music class, this bunch of fifth graders. The lyrics went, "Land of the silver bush, home of the beaver, where still the mighty moose wanders at will. Blue lake and rocky shore, I will return once more. Boom titty boom 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 titty boom boom boom."
Wow.
This is
that went Rihanna at the very end.
Yeah, a class of just silver bushes and homes of beavers and boom titty boom boom.
Very
Yeah, I always thought Lake Titicaca, we're getting way off target here, but I always thought Lake Titicaca was a thing that somebody showed up and named and then left, and all the locals were like, "Oh, what a great name." And no one ever came back and was just like, "Yo, that's boobs and poop in a lake."
Okay, so Ubisoft's got this theme park, right?
I wrote down the timestamp to break
Which
it
is
out.
weird because there are rumors that Nintendo's also partnering with Universal to make a theme park. So we might actually get legitimate video game theme parks.
Yeah, we've got Avatar Land and Star Wars Land, and there's Disney's hard at work kind of updating this stuff. And have they announced a Marvel superhero land? Is that a thing that's happening?
No, they're Star Wars stuff.
The Marvel thing's confusing because Marvel has the stuff in Universal,
right? Yeah,
even though now it's obviously
and
very much a
there
Disney
was
thing.
talk of Konami partnering with Universal for something.
Incredible Hulk's a good coaster, by the way.
I think the idea is that there's so much media that can be kind of digitized. You can I feel like movies are doing great. People still go see movies, but at the same time, people also just download movies, and it's you don't to do the thing where you get someone out of the house. I'm guessing that theme parks must be on some kind of long con scale doing really well for Ubisoft to be let's open a theme park in Kuala Lumpur.
Well, they probably figured that the only other place where you can nickel and dime people with more microtransactions than a video game is a theme park.
There you go.
You can't go more than 3 feet without being this. You got to buy this ticket. You got to buy this thing. Here's a turkey leg.
It's also one of the few pieces of art that can't be pirated.
Yeah,
true.
You can't download a facsimile of
it's
theme
also
park.
it's very cheap localized escapism for people that don't have to get on a plane. I can go to a fake proximity of France by going to some
Right, and if you've got kids, and the other bit, if you're rich and you've got kids, these are kind of the apex. You market them directly to them through, you can market.
Even if you're poor and you have kids.
Oh, yeah, it is. Although less and less, I think major theme parks are for the poor, but that's a whole other discussion.
They're incredibly expensive.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Disneyland specifically. I have a friend Anthony Gallegos is going to Disneyland and was just telling us about how it's going to be a $2,000 trip for him and his girlfriend to go and stay a few nights.
Good God.
And it's a feedback loop.
It's kind of ridiculous.
You have direct channels to market to these children. Hey, all these characters and things are wonderful. And by the way, if you go to the park, you can see all of it. So then you sell the toys, then you go to the park, and then once you go to the park, you sell more toys.
Yeah.
And it's
So I'm real curious to just see how they do a family-friendly version of Assassin's Creed. They're probably going to do the whole historical aspect and be like, come in and see how an actual butter churn works. Or here's an old-timey cotton gin.
They'll do a rooftop roller coaster type thing. Have you guys ever been to the Batman ride in New Jersey, Six Flags?
Yeah.
So it's the same way where they went off to this sort of 90s Gotham aesthetic where it looks a lot like the old, the action figure packaging for the 89 Batman, where everything's just kind of black and gold and dingy. And it's just imagine Batman escaping through the night, and it's basically just these kind of crappy-looking rooftop settings that you go flying through. And Assassin's Creed is a lot about sort of jumping from building to building and traversing over these giant, rooftop landscapes. So it's easy for them to do a ride that's sort of just stop, you're being chased, and you're in a roller coaster.
Actually, now that I think about it, they've been doing Assassin's Creed obstacle courses at Comic-Con every year.
You can do something about that.
Yeah.
You could also I can imagine how there's the Harry Potter Diagon Alley thing, walking through a fake city that goes from Italy to London to Paris. in the
And
respective time
they're
periods.
also-
selling turkey legs.
I mean,
and
the
it's
Animus.
It's a rent fair, basically.
Oh yeah, you could easily be
The
an
Animus is like a Star Tours for history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
A magic school bus.
And
Actually-
kids love toy weapons.
I was going to say there's a lot of potential. Yeah, that's true. And then you just have those
Pirate ship.
There's a lot of potential for sort of like the Animus ride to kind of be like, hey, pick your destination, and like where do you want to go?
Or have it be like you're an employee of Abstergo on
Yep.
this ride.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't know what the Just Dance thing's going to be because
Just be
probably
dancing.
just
They
a-
got Jason Derulo. He's just gonna
he
be.
lives there
He
now?
has to dance every
Hope
day.
you like Kuala Lumpur, Jason Derulo. That's the hardest sentence I've ever said.
You know what? You know what'd be just wonderful if we never got a Beyond Good and Evil 2, but there was like a ride here. It's like, you know what? You're never gonna get that game, but go to Jade Line.
This is what I'm talking about. I would rather they were like, here's Beyond Good and Evil 2 than here's the theme park. Or I'd rather they're like, here's Rayman Legends 2 than here's the theme park. But you get what you get.
I'm so sad because Marty said that.
Yeah.
Okay.
People get sad when I talk.
Okay, so another big thing is we got the release date for Uncharted 4, March 18th, 2016.
Woo!
All right, clear your calendars. They also noted that, what is it? There's going to be story DLC.
Story DLC.
Yeah. For the first time.
Which they're very excited about, and I think a lot of people are kind of hesitant about. But I would say don't be, because Left Behind for The Last of Us was
incredible.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
What if it's just about Sully, and it's just like Sully doing stuff off the clock, but he's like, I'm going to go and get a chili cheeseburger.
Yeah.
I'm going to go find a cigar store. And you're just like, you just going and doing really boring
I
old
would
man
love that.
stuff.
I'd be captivated for at least 2 hours by that.
Like he's in the Banana Republic buying all
Yeah.
those hot shirts that he wears.
Exactly.
What do you mean you don't have an extra large? Can you look in the back?
You got to sneak into the back, try to find the extra larges.
Let me speak to your manager.
My guess is this will my absolute real guess is this will center on Troy Baker's character, Nathan Drake's brother.
That makes a lot of sense.
They'll probably fill out his backstory. I think another thing a lot of people want is the sort of like, you know how in Uncharted 3 you could play as Nathan Drake as a kid for an entire chapter, which was like really cool, and so nobody saw that coming. Like I remember the first time I played that, and all of a sudden it was just like, there's a child standing here and I can control him and sneak into a building.
Yeah.
Not as well as I can as an adult man. I want them to do that with Sully. He's grown up and he's a little kid and he's getting.
But he's like a little fat kid and he's trying to
Yeah.
steal candy or something.
Yeah.
It's like the Goonies with Sully.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be
I feel
He's just shoving Abba Zabbas down his trousers. And
Yeah, people are upset about this.
I don't know why they're upset about that.
I mean,
everyone
people are
should
upset
look
about
like
everything, but-
Left Behind was incredible. So
Yeah.
I can see this focusing on Elena even.
just means more Uncharted. Like,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, especially because like this is the end. This is the end of their saga, and we might not get another Uncharted game for a few years. So I would rather this than what Naughty Dog's been doing, which is like, here's a $20 pack of skins for our multiplayer, or here's emblems, or what they did with The Last of Us, which was just disgusting, where they were like, here's poses you can do for after you kill somebody that they sold. They actually sold that. So if all the things you get mad of at DLC that Naughty Dog's done, this is not even
Getting mad at a cool short story that they're going to make.
Yeah, this is not even part
You know,
of it.
the fact that we throw the term the abbreviation DLC around is really stupid because it's downloadable content. That doesn't mean anything in 2015.
Sure.
Everything is at this point downloadable.
Yeah.
So there was a point when it was $5 horse armor, but right now we're at a point where it means that could mean, I mean, in the case of The Witcher, it's a 10-hour expansion, which is longer than a lot of games out there. In this case, we don't know how long it is, but it's story driven. It's not cosmetic. Multiplayer crap.
You're totally right. I don't know why we still do that. Like, actually, we should. I mean, we have a big enough following here. We should step forward and just retire that.
Can we start
stop
saying expansion pack?
Yeah, because it's like calling Rogue One a DLC for Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
It's like, or Star Wars.
Well, it's like if we had an abbreviation for like direct to video or something, and you're like anything that's not a numbered sequel or whatever.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, it's just a direct to video spin-off, and you're
That
like,
means
it's
it
not.
sucks.
It's not what that is, Like,
Yeah.
So are we
DLC
declaring that here? Are we killing the term?
Is this going to be a funeral? DLC funeral?
I would like to start calling it something new. Like, let's call it specifically what it is. Like, I think downloadable content, like Metal Gear Solid 5 was downloadable content for me because I downloaded it.
Yeah.
Like,
So
I
would
didn't
this
go
be-
to a
Well,
store
also,
for
can we
it.
just stop about DLC because that's like using the term indie game when
Yeah.
what does that mean? What is like that's independent of what? It's like I like indie movies. Like, wait,
I think
that's
you
too broad.
You can complain about a specific company's
Spy Kids is independent.
Content strategy is probably a better way to put it. Like in that they are, when people piecemeal content or they piecemeal story stuff out. Those are individual arguments to get mad at, but to just blanket anger at DLC, like it seems really stupid, and it's also completely negating the fact that stuff like this. Is probably going to be pretty awesome, and it is completely different than a background music or a posing pack or an emblem or any of the other stuff that we call DLC.
Can we start calling it DL Hughley?
Oh, good.
Yeah, let's call it that. Uncharted 4 DL Hughley.
Can we get blanket angry at TLC? Chasing waterfalls and all that? Or?
Why would you want to do that? They're wonderful.
Why would you ever want to chase an entire waterfall?
You should stick to the rivers and the lakes that you used to.
Should we call good DLC TLC because it was used with tender love and care?
There could be
tender love and content.
Okay, so we're clearly workshopping
have,
this, but let's think about that. I think Max is onto something. Let's change the conversation around this kind of stuff. Because,
I agree.
We're using one name for everything, and that's stupid.
Yeah.
Speaking of Uncharted, 3 of us were at PAX Prime, and we went hands-on with the Uncharted collection.
Cool.
Which was cool. It's the first time I actually got to play it.
Yeah. It looks great. Feels great.
Looks great. I will say that I think a lot of people were expecting it to look like Uncharted 4 levels.
No.
Not even close.
It looks great.
Not even close.
It looks
but
fantastic.
Looks really good.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest problems that I was having with it was that the animation in Uncharted 2, which is the only one we actually got to play, still it's like a little stiff in retrospect, and they put a new paint job over it, which is fine, but just kind of going with the expectations that you are playing repainted old games and not like it's not sort of like what Resident Evil Remake did to Resident Evil.
Right, of course not.
Well, it's a much newer game series. Yeah. Also, it's I don't know a whole lot about how performance capture works, but I imagine if you are doing performance capture for a PS3 game in 2009 or whenever that was, you're probably shooting for a target that's much lower. Like, you're probably not shooting for 60 frames a second.
Yeah.
Unless you are. Like, it's probably something like, and if you think about it, when you're doing something that's 30 frames per second versus 60 frames a second, that is twice as much visual information.
Yep.
And I mean, I don't really know the nuts and bolts there, but like, if you take a game that was made with a certain expectation in mind and you double the resolution and double the frame rate, I mean, did Uncharted 2 run at 60 or was that? I don't keep that much track of it, but I mean, it's one of those things. If I see them side by side, I can see the difference. But if you put it right in front of me, I'm not going to be like, oh, I see that,
Yep. So that's what.
But the animation is going to reflect that, like it's going to be, it's just.
It's a little jerkier.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
You're right. They would have had to like mocap every single person. And all
it's the same deal where like Star Wars CG. What is it? We shot a Star Wars parody video on a better digital camera than George Lucas used to make the prequels.
Yeah.
Like, it has more color.
Yep.
It captures more depth and light and stuff, and that's so weird to think about. But yeah.
So it's out in October.
Yep.
It's all 3 games. It's $60. No multiplayer, but it does come with the Uncharted 4 multiplayer beta.
We're not sure when that's going to come out.
God, I don't know.
Yeah, that just gives you access to that. We don't. It doesn't. You're not going to.
Still haven't got that Doom beta that came with Wolfenstein.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh my. Yeah.
All
So.
right. That's how you sell Wolfenstein. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You also put it out practically as a launch title. So
That worked. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm totally into the Uncharted collection because it's going to be great to revisit something like that and see it all pretty and play it on my nice new controllers that I like a whole lot. But like, damn, when am I going to find time to do that? Like, I don't really know this fall.
Yep.
So
yeah, we'll find time before March.
Yeah.
all right, we have an email here. We should have prepped more emails, but we didn't because we're bad boys, nasty little men, awful podcasters, rotten, the lot of us.
Is this the email?
No.
Oh, that was really
No, that'd be
We
really
get something like that
really
sometimes.
insane. Corey Proden wrote in to say, my name is Corey Proden, a longtime listener to the podcast. I was wondering, what are all your thoughts on the Morpheus? Haven't really heard y'all digging that topic yet. Well, a little bit here and there. Do you think the Morpheus is going to be the next Kinect? I recently just went to the Void, a VR theme park out in Utah, and it made me realize these sitting VR experiences are just a shell of the medium's true potential.
There's
that
a
sounds
VR theme park in
Utah?
called The
The
Void?
Void?
Man, I'm glad we read that email.
He
I
actually
had no idea.
He actually just dropped acid and went to sleep in the middle of the desert.
There's VR. I didn't even think about the concept of there being VR theme parks in our lives.
Oh no, there was Disney Quest did a lot of that stuff too,
Yeah.
and when they opened those in Chicago and Orlando,
You're thinking
those
of
had
the
some
word
of that
Dragon
stuff.
Quest.
I think that we are going to see a lot a lot of pop-up VR theme parks. I think that when you're promoting a movie, it's going to be way cheaper to think about it. We've got this kind of multi-purpose mean of having, here's the thing you put on your face, and it can transport you to anything. And wherever you transport that person, you only have to build it once.
Yeah.
So whereas an actual theme park, you have to have all these safety regulations, you have to physically construct these machines, and they might be for Ubisoft's going to be doing an Assassin's Creed theme park part, whatever, but they're going to be probably doing it for the Assassin's Creed stuff that's already out.
Yeah.
How do you make that to promote the newer stuff, you know? Whereas if you've got, a VR construct you jump into and it's, I don't know, it's at a GameStop and you line up and it's like, if you pre-order this, you get to ride this thing for free or whatever. Otherwise, it's $4. I don't know if they're going to do it that way, but think like movie premieres.
I don't even want to touch the controllers at GameStop, let alone put my head in those
That's
filthy helmets.
There's absolutely going to be a market for disposable VR covers if this is a thing that kind of comes about.
I agree. I mean, they had in the early '90s they had the thing where the VR units were traveling from arcade to arcade in this kind of Wild West show.
Yeah, but they weren't
the place showing it off.
They weren't good, and they weren't licensed.
No,
and we are in an age of lots and lots of licensed mega franchises.
Oh, I think you're right. I think this is exactly what's going to happen, and I think it's especially in that kind of short-term thing where they're just showing off a chunk of something and then they don't have to use the system for anything else that's going to work. Part of what didn't work at VR the last time they tried to do a wave of VR theme parks was that at first they were really impressive, and then a year later they were less, and then 2 years later they looked like you were watching The Lawnmower Man on VHS, and they weren't willing to reinvest the money that you constantly had to do to keep it cutting edge. Disney did try something very similar to this, and if you went to a Disney Quest, a decade after they opened, you're just like, what is this? But when it came out, it was fantastic. I think that what you're suggesting would work phenomenally well as long as you were able to keep it in the moment the way that they would.
Well, think about how often they release an app for a new movie. We don't see.
Right.
We don't see.
I just saw one for Metal Gear Solid 5. Did you guys see that?
Yeah,
There's
I mean
a companion app.
Yeah,
that's just
sort of like that.
In 2 months, that won't even mean anything.
More along the lines of when the Christopher Nolan Batman movies came out. They had a Dark Knight Rises game on mobile, like the Gameloft games, where it's we don't see AAA licensed tie-ins anymore, but we do see apps. And the amount of money that goes into developing that, which is something you're actually going to play with and fiddle with, and it's supposed to be balanced and it's supposed to work. Now imagine you're taking that development and QA time and putting it into something that's a semi-static experience. It's you put it on your face and you just, it's video games have to work. They have to withstand stress. VR, there's going to be a certain amount of exploration, but it's not so much about actually pushing buttons and doing stuff in there. It can be kind of like a tour guide.
But it's going to be just like the console war. It is Morpheus's fate will be decided by whether or not it becomes the dominant or second dominant VR system.
Yeah, which
and
is
if it's
tough
not,
because there's Oculus and then there's Valve.
Yeah, and there's a
HTC
ton
Vive.
of competition there.
Yeah.
And from what we're hearing, Morpheus is doing some really awesome stuff, and technically it might even be better than a lot of stuff the Oculus is doing. But the Wii had the worst graphics by a long shot during its console generation and sold 100 million units more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it really depends. And that means that support will go wherever it goes.
Yeah.
So if more people are supporting Oculus because Facebook owns it and they shove it in everyone's faces, and Morpheus is only being supported predominantly by Sony first and third parties, then it's going to struggle a little bit. And especially if they're not positioning it front and center as a sort of consumer escapism device, which I think that Oculus, especially with the Facebook tie-in, is going to be, hey, go to your aunt's birthday party without actually being there. That kind of stuff. If Morpheus kind of sits back on that and goes more towards gamers, they're going to get less of that sort of blue ocean and just grab a very small group of people.
Well, so Oculus has this weird thing going on where there's the regular Rift, which is, obviously Oculus in its entirety is owned by Facebook. I don't know what Facebook's going to do with that exactly. Yeah. They've got that marketing power right there. I know they want to do some kind of face-to-face stuff. But the price of admission for an Oculus Rift is also at least $1,000 gaming rig. And they've worked with Microsoft to kind of make that work. If they made it so you can plug it into an Xbox One, something interesting going on, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Or a dedicated appliance eventually.
Yeah, it also apparently it's only PC. I interviewed Palmer Luckey and he said that there's no Mac product off the shelf that would run an Oculus Rift well.
Right.
On the other hand, they've also got the VR Gear or the Samsung Gear, which is it is a plastic thing that you pop a Galaxy 6 Nexus whatever Samsung phone into the faceplate. if you go into a Verizon or a T-Mobile or a Sprint or a Boost or whatever the hell people buy phones at now, and they're like, shout out to Boost Mobile,
newest sponsor of Podcast Beyond.
Yeah, but if you go in and they're like, hey, and you're checking out phones, and they're like, hey, can we interest you in the VR experience today? And you're like, sorry, what? I was annoyed by you. Didn't listen to what you said. And they're like, just step right over here. I mean, like, they will upsell you an iPad case for like 5 times the cost of what an iPad case should cost.
Yep.
Now imagine they're selling you a VR headset that actually does some pretty cool stuff. That's awesome.
And then a VR headset case for 5 times the cost.
Yeah, well, they're like, exactly. But like, but I mean, the fact if they're like, if buy this phone, get this VR headset for free.
The phone
that's
thing's a
pretty
really
crazy.
good comparison too, because there was an era, and it's also sort of the. Do you guys remember like the Philips CDI era of consoles where everyone was like, "We're making video game consoles," and everyone and their mother made one, and three consoles came out of that alive that are actually still intact today. And the Panasonic 3DO, the TurboGrafx, the Philips CDI, and everybody's like, we're doing it. Every one of those things died. Every one of those things died except for 2, and it was the same 3 guys stuck to the end. Same thing happened with smartphones, where everybody was like, check it out, it's the Razer G04, and here's the Orange 52 Jaculus, and all of a sudden you're like,
the Jaculus?
Well, sure. So, but here's the thing:
all gone.
if you go into Verizon or whatever, and you need to buy a new phone, and there's a new phone that comes with a VR headset, that's pretty lucrative. Like, that's pretty appealing to even the most, like, oh, yeah, you can watch Netflix on a plane and not see the world around you.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Meanwhile, you've got the PS4 in the hand, which has a pretty big install base already. And the Morpheus is a thing you plug right in there. How much it costs is really going to be the big issue.
The short-term demonstration, you talked about Wii earlier. I mean, cost is going to be a huge chunk of it. Part of the reason Wii was so successful, even though it was lower tech, was because it was so cheap. And that acted as whether or not this thing's affordable is going to determine how many hands get on it. Because ultimately, unlike something you can show off on a wall with people swinging happy tennis rackets, you have to put this thing on your head before you get the impact.
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out how to cover VR because it's tough. Because all we can do is ramble about it. We can't really show anyone what it's like.
There's also, I think we're seeing kind of a rise in like consumer luxury products. Like there was a time when the iWatch would have been dead in the water. Like the Apple Watch, people buy it. I don't know.
Not
if it's
a ton though.
I don't know if it's a sweeping success, but
it's really not. Like it's sort of. Well, that's the thing. Like when you say the thing that like goes with your phone, I think that's an interesting way to angle it. But I think that more so, like the company that makes a deal with Virgin to put it on planes and get it into places where you're there already, and they go, hey, can we interest you in an Oculus Rift for $25? You can watch all your favorite films or go to your aunt's birthday party on this flight. And you go, okay, and then you get off the plane, and you go, that was incredible. Like I need that at home. Sorry. That's like whoever gets there wins. But I think you're totally right in that like this. A lot of people think it's just a tech that kind of lives on its own. It's not. Yeah. It's got to be paired with a huge video game console.
Well, no, that's to clarify. The Gear VR is a plastic thing for a Samsung phone.
Yeah.
So it's not. That's the brilliant thing is that the VR device is the phone. So you don't have to buy a VR device to pair with the phone. It's just a piece of plastic that holds the phone, which is like. That's always going to be a little bit like that's going to be a little bit chintzier, but like you can justify buying a phone. You can't necessarily justify buying a $400 VR headset or whatever for your PS4.
But whether it be Oculus or it be the phone or it be the Morpheus or it be something else that we haven't seen yet, which of these it may be, I do think the long game here is fascinating. I mean, science fiction has looked at opportunities to bring people over long distances into the same room in a lot of different ways. Whether it be Star Wars holograms all hanging out in the top of the Jedi Temple, or whether it be people with things plugged into the back of their necks hanging out in virtual space. These are the footsteps these are the harbingers of that kind of technology becoming a part of our life. And with the kind of money that's behind it right now and the companies that are pushing it, sooner or later this is going to be a real thing that's a part of what we do. I think the real question right now is who's going to get that first little hook in. And I'm not sure who gets the hook in is going to be the one to be the final huge success in it. It may very well end up being a MySpace Facebook situation where whoever wins this round ultimately loses the whole thing, but they get the ball rolling. That being the case, I think games are a logical place for that interface to start. But keep an eye out on this Oculus Facebook thing, especially because going to Aunt's birthday party sounds really dumb, and at the beginning it might be, but
so does Minions. But they love those on Facebook.
But the opportunity to stand in a room with somebody else and not be able to tell
your
the
aunt
difference.
probably had a Minions birthday cake at her party.
It doesn't feel like a race right now.
No,
which is weird.
Well, it
feels like a bunch of people being like, You gonna go first?
It's a bunch of people putzing around the starting
just
line.
Like, who's gonna make the first move? Because whoever goes out there first and really sticks their neck out, and they're like, "This is VR, everybody!" And
it's a bunch of dudes at a middle school dance, like kind of puttering around, looking at their feet. Everyone's scared to go up and ask someone to dance. That's.
Yeah. Look at a Palm Pilot. Look at an iPhone. They're fundamentally the same.
Do we
thing.
want to wrap up or go through rapid fire real quick? I got real quick questions.
Let's go through the new releases real quick.
Gonna wrap up.
Yeah.
There is Arcade Archives Ajax coming to PS4. That's a game that Jared's probably played. It came out in 1987. It's about shooting stuff. There's Ascendant. It's a PS4 game. It is an unforgiving beat 'em up that challenges you with a new world each time you play. Broken Sword 5: The Serpent's Curse is PS4 digital cross-buy with PS Vita. Paris in the spring, shots ring out from a gallery, a robbery, a murder, and the beginning of another epic Broken Sword adventure.
That wins the award for this week's most fake game name.
Where do they keep coming from?
What, Broken Sword?
Broken Sword 5: The Serpent's Curse.
You can play as a sassy French journalist named Nico Collard.
When do I not?
Broken Sword games can be pretty good, though. So you might take a
totally.
peek.
EA Sports FIFA 16, PS4, PS3. Is this demo in parentheses? Is this the demo? Okay, so if you want to find out what it's like to kick the ball with one of your feet, good news. You can do that in this one, but unfortunately, to use the other feet, you got to wait until the full one comes out. There's Fat City, which comes to PS Vita. This sounds interesting. I didn't really get a look at any gameplay of it, but it's an action puzzler with 60 targets spread throughout the 5 boroughs of New York City. Players use their cunning and brain power to plan raids and execute getaways to pull in the big bucks in the city that never sleeps. I mostly that it's like Fat City. It sounds.
Has anyone ever called New York Fat City?
No.
People have called my couch Fat City.
Nice.
That'd be really rude for someone to enter your house and then call it Fat City.
Hyper Void has a PlayStation Plus trial. PS4 digital cross-buy with PS3. It's about space and stuff.
Yeah.
Knock Knock. This looks really weird. I have no idea what it is.
Can we talk about the description? Doesn't make any sense.
Okay, yeah. So PS4 digital. It's out September 10th. Knock Knock is a pocket of chaos that serves as a direct contradiction to the belief that the world can be made sense of at all.
What?
Wow, it's like goodness. It's like an uncertainty principle video game. That's
I thought you were going to say
What a mean game.
No, that's just weird.
Yeah.
What if it were Knack and it were Knack 2?
Ugh, stop it. Leo's Fortune coming to PS4. You play as a little ball of fur with a mustache. It's a platform adventure game where you hunt down the cunning and mysterious thief that stole your gold.
Wait, wasn't that what Broken Sword is about?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Video games are all about the same thing. One Piece Pirate Warriors 3 coming to PS Vita. He's little pirate people. And
Say
do the
say the last 2 words of this description.
Don Quixote do Flamingo. Done.
Cool. Tearaway Unfolded. PS4 digital retail. It's Tearaway once again.
Did we review this?
Yeah, Creeper reviewed it. He gave it. It was something in the 7s. He likes it, but it was not as good as. It sort of loses some of the charm of the Vita version.
Bummer.
All right, Brian, rapid fire.
Here we go.
Hit me with your best shot.
So every week I go in the Podcast Beyond Facebook group.
You almost said comedy, but
I did. I do a lot of shows. And I ask a question, and then you guys answer it with hundreds of answers in mere moments, and then I have to pick 4 or 5 of them, and it's very difficult. But here are the ones I've chosen. James Goldsmith, what's up, boy? Says, anytime any of you Beyond presenters stepped away from gaming for a while, did you ever lose interest for a period of time with games?
Yeah, I think like 2009 and 2011.
Yeah.
I just got busy with other things.
Yeah.
And then
College.
Yeah.
And then
College is a great time to
Trying
stop
to-
playing
trying
video
to do
games
some
'cause you're
kissing.
broke.
Yeah.
When you're broke and you're trying to get laid, that's a really hard time to be playing video games.
Yep.
That's just a frank, honest reality.
No, I never stopped, and I constantly moved to new platforms.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice work. Ironically, when you're older and you have more money and you're married, is when you get to play video games a lot. Where we are, because I don't have kids yet that are just crying all night. So I get to play video games a lot now. I actually got to tell my wife the other day, I'm going to play Metal Gear all day. Deal with it. And she said, I love you.
I bought Jen a copy of Danganronpa on her Vita because she loves Persona, and I was like, I don't know what either of those things are about besides Japanese ghosts and little colorful bears and stuff. Yep. So I was just like, here you go. This is a thing that seems similar to your interests.
I like how Jen's taste in games is just 1-to-1 with Andrew's.
Yeah,
pretty much.
On the flip side, Bradley Whitaker says, what's the longest time you spent playing a game without stopping? Most recently would probably be yesterday. I mean, stopping like to pee or to eat or just to take a break. I'm not really sure. He's not here to answer that.
I've definitely probably done some of my most revolting gaming these last few days. I think it's also kind of realizing that I do have a bulk of other responsibilities that I'm like, I should probably clean my room.
So you played Metal Gear all day yesterday. What time did you shower?
So I woke up at 10 o'clock. I went outside. I mowed my lawn.
Yep.
I came inside. I did not shower. I sat down on the couch, covered in grass stains and gross sweat. And I played the game from 11 until I think 3 or 4 in the afternoon.
Okay.
And that was, and then we went out and got dinner, came back and played it.
Were you still covered in grass?
No, I showered in there
Yeah,
somewhere.
well, 3 o'clock afternoon dinner time.
I went out and bought
Citizens discount.
we went out at 5 and had dinner, and then we came back and I played the game until like 11:30.
Yeah,
and it was
I
just
did the exact same thing minus the grass stains.
Yeah,
the exact same thing. I took a break around 3 o'clock. I had lunch, and then I played the rest of the day. And I remember very specifically waiting moments to get up to pee and make a coffee, and that was about it. I just sat back down and just played all day.
Occasionally, when working on guides, I'll play a game for 18, maybe 20 hours at a stretch. Between sleep.
That's messed up. Wow. I played through The Last of Us in a single sitting the night before.
Is that why you are always
single
just
sitting?
Yeah, because it was like we got the game early. Colin reviewed it. There was one copy, and I was leaving for E3 the next morning, and I was like, I'm just gonna finish this.
Is that why you're always so shaken up and just looking like we just saw a ghost because you just. Do you have PTSD from that game?
Wow.
Yeah, no, that's just his alcohol.
Because you always come in just wide-eyed and you're like, guys, I don't want to alarm anyone, but we're doing a podcast.
What's what? I feel like I'm the calmest person in this office.
No, that's not true.
I played that game in probably 3.5 sittings, but God, man.
Yeah.
That's like a 15-hour game, too.
Yeah, and I was playing, I remember my ex was in bed next to me, and she kept waking up and being like, did that girl die yet? I was like, I don't think she's going to die. She's like, okay, well, wake me up if she dies.
Is that why she's an ex?
Yeah.
John Gaudio says, what's your favorite fruit?
Bananas.
Plums.
Plums.
I really like peaches. They're not very versatile because you bring them into work and they get all bruised in your bag and then they start bleeding.
They're a sensitive fruit.
They are very baby touched.
They are baby, but they're so tasty.
They're really
I
good.
like a kiwi.
Yeah.
I like
Kiwis
a nice
are great
kiwis
too.
are
They're a
a
real
good
pain in the
time.
ass, though. You got to really get
You
in
gotta
there. You gotta
get them waxed.
You seem surprised by
Get
plums,
that-
though. What was like plums?
I don't know. No one likes plums.
Plums are weird because they're really sweet, but the peels are super sour.
Yeah, you got to cut the peel off.
Bananas are great because they're versatile and they come in their own case.
They're
Oh, no, I got this.
Pre-order buns.
Clementines. When it's wintertime, when it's like Christmas time, you get clementines at the store. I will eat like half a crate of those in
I
one
like
sitting.
those a lot. They're
Those
just
are
kind
really
of a pain in the ass.
And I
to
just
get
look like
open.
I look like when you find a dog that's gotten into something. Like
Yep.
you come home and I'm just covered in orange peels, and it smells like a
sort of
it
feel.
smells like a big old Yankee candle in my house. And
So you could find a really succulent pear. Those are good, but it's got to be like a really good pear.
And finally, one more food question. John Thomas asks, do you fold your pizza?
No.
Wow. You wrote that? You said that specifically to write down?
I fold my
Who's
pizza.
folding pizza?
Yeah,
Who's
I
got
do
time
too.
to fold pizza?
Depends.
I fold pizza if it's the right kind of pizza for
Yeah.
folding, but
Yeah.
otherwise I don't.
Do you Fulton pizza?
I think I folded the pizza at some point last week.
I folded a pizza into my body.
God, I hope there's. I would be so happy if there was a pizza that just showed up in Metal Gear.
You
You just
fold
find like a bunch
No.
of dudes just having a pizza party.
It'd be great. Maybe it'll happen.
All right.
That was rapid fire. As you can see, my answer is absolutely yes when I'm in New York City and other places that have thinner slices. Kind of no, but I think I told you this, Max. My mom grew up in Italy. She's an Italian American immigrant. She only eats pizza with a knife and fork and capers on top and a beer on the side. That is the only way she will eat pizza. She was like, that is the traditional Italian way. And I'm like, no, thank you.
That's
All right.
been an hour and 8 minutes in, and we got our first Speaking of Italy.
Speaking
All right.
of Italy,
There we are.
Beautiful. Well, thank you all for listening very much. We will be back next week at the normal time. You can find us all on Twitter, where we'll be probably tweeting out pictures of horses pooping and balloons on bears
I'm
and
going to
all
Wisconsin.
kinds of bad
I'm going
stuff.
to tweet pictures of fireflies.
You'll be tweeting pictures of actual horses pooping because
real-
that's what they do over there.
Yep.
Are there
Just
fireflies
gonna-
in September in Wisconsin?
Well, I'm going to bring some. Yeah, I think so.
we're
Weird.
not allowed to do that. Don't do that. Don't bring
You can find us on Twitter. I'm Max Scoville. Marty is McBiggity with 2
Yes.
G's and 2 T's. Brian is Agent Bizzle. And Jared is Petty, Jared, spelled out with letters.
COMMA.
And
Yes.
Andrew Goldfarb passed away.
Andrew Goldfarb
Oh, no, he
is
didn't.
he's at Computer Guy 17.
Yep.
Let's see if that's a real person
Tweet
on
at that
Twitter.
guy. Send me your favorite dog names.
We'll see you guys next time.
Send your dog names.
Send
to
your dog
Goldfarb,
names.
too.
Oh my God! Yes, please tweet at Carfep and just tweet your dog name.
Out of
Like
context.
out of context. Don't tell them it was apropos
God,
of this.
here we go.
Yeah.
That's what you get for flaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Garfy. All right. Beyond.
Yeah.
Beyond.
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 Guys, stop it.
Beyond.
All right. We have to go.
Beyond.